Welcome to another weekly installment of Turnpike Sports. I am Dave Weichel, and as always, I am joined by my co-host and producer, Doug Weichel. Doug, what's up?
Me barely again. This has been a long week. It's holiday week, post-4th of July. Happy post-4th of July, everybody. Hope you guys had a nice, safe, and happy holiday. And it's good to be back on the air here.
Boy, what a busy week it was. Both for the sports books as well. A couple new sports books I've been to. The Ocean Resort opened their sports book.
Which was William Hill.
William Hill, yeah.
Very nice.
Saw Mark Wahlberg place a bet. I think he bet on the Eagles, too.
He placed the first bet.
He bet on the Eagles, which was surprising because I know he's a Patriots fan, but he did play an Eagle.
I think that's why he did it, and also, you know what?
And he knew the market he was in.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the reason why he did it more so than anything.
Atlantic City, I'm talking about.
But also, we had the Hard Rock opening too.
Absolutely,
no sports book, but they will have one supposedly coming soon within the next 30 to 50 days.
Who did they make a deal with? They made a deal with someone.
Bet365.
Bet365. So look for them to the Hard Rock to get a sports book.
And also Resorts just made a deal with, I think it was SBC Global, to do a sports book on their property too. So,
but the big sports book that's opening pretty soon is the Meadowlands, just 12 miles away from Times Square.
Yep.
Boy,
I know.
I think that's going to be the busiest. You know, I know Monmouth is right around there, but and they did a great job. William Hill again runs that one, but William Hill runs the sports book at Monmouth. But even though it's a great sports book, the location for the Meadowlands that close to New York is just amazing.
But they got to change the regulations so they're open on Sundays.
On Sunday, yeah. So but what did you say? Who Betfair?
Betfair is going to be running the sports book at the Meadowlands. And they're actually a subsidiary of Paddy Power, which is interesting because Paddy Power runs the Haskell over at Monmouth. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how all that works out. But you know what? We're starting to see the partnership shape up. We're starting to see everybody pairing up and getting ready to launch. I'm pretty sure.
I'm waiting for mobile. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for mobile. I'm waiting for the time where on Sunday morning I can just look at my phone and place a bet.
Well, I think probably by the first week of
certainly by football
regular season, first week. I think you'll probably see mobile, online, and also all the sports books up and running, especially in Atlantic City.
Yeah, well, I think one of my bets that I placed the first day at the Borgata Sportsbook is not taking shape too well, but I don't want to jump ahead of the exit, so let's take a ride on the Turnpike.
Exit 1.
Speaking of your bet at the Borgata,
boy.
We have LeBron James kicking off free agency, and he didn't wait. He went right to L.A.,
yeah,
and not only did he
had
change
a courtesy meeting with the 76ers, but that was it.
He chose L.A. after talking with Magic Johnson and Kobe Bryant and all that. He never talked to the coach. I always found that interesting.
It's
yeah,
odd.
But
I can't believe the coach wasn't in on the pitch. But I think they knew he was going there anyway. He has two houses there, so you know.
I don't think that coach is long for that team. Maybe that may be what's going on. But we'll see what Luke Walton does. But as soon as he
are they about the same age as?
No, LeBron's older.
LeBron's older. Than
I believe LeBron's older.
Okay.
But it's one of those things. But his shift not only changed the balance of it didn't change the balance of power. It just increased the balance of power in favor of the West. There is nothing in the East in terms of superstars.
There's
now.
A lot of movement in the sports books with regard to odds now. I think L.A. became the second best team with regard to odds to win it all. I say that right?
Yeah, they went from 20-1 to 7-2. They're tied with the Celtics for the
which I think is
second
ridiculous.
best odds.
I think it's stupid. I don't think the Lakers, certainly they're really good with LeBron, but I don't think they're better than Houston.
I don't think they're better than Oklahoma City. I don't think they're better than Houston.
And of course, the Warriors are going to win it anyway. So
yeah, well, that didn't change. But the Sixers dropped from 4-1 to 14-1.
That was my bet that got screwed up. I got it 4-1, and now they're down to 14-1. I should have waited.
Well, you know what?
it was pre-LeBron.
Not as big a drop as the Cavaliers had after he left. They went down to 500-1.
That's crazy.
And one thing I just found out. It shifted the odds for next year's MVP, too. You had Harden win it this year. Mm-hmm. He is now not even favored, the most favored to win the MVP. It's LeBron James.
Sure.
Harden is tied for second with New Orleans' Anthony Davis and also the Greek Freak over in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. I always want to say Mosi Tatupu. I always want to say Mosi Tatupu, the old football player.
Yeah.
When I see that name, but it's one of those things where we'll see exactly where all this lands. I don't think the odds are done shifting yet because we still got a couple moves that are probably going to be made at some point, especially with the Lakers.
Sure, Lakers and I guess Celtics and Sixers and who and the Kyrie, not the Kyrie, right? I keep saying Kyrie.
Kawhi Leonard.
Why do I keep saying Kyrie?
Because they both begin with K's.
Okay, they'll see where he ends up.
Exit 2.
We're going from basketball to football. The XFL.
Football, sort of.
No, they're making a legitimate push here. Vince McMahon announced that he's going to be dropping $500 million over the first 3 years of the XFL's life.
Okay, yeah, but let me tell you something. They got some big time support in the media. I mean, they have. Do they have contracts with TV, or is that the other football league?
That's the other football league. They have no contracts yet with any TV networks.
Okay.
Well, this is a little different because this is strictly Vince McMahon. Before the XFL was co-owned by NBC.
Okay.
So this is all McMahon. It's all his money. He's actually made an interesting push here. He put Oliver Luck in as the commissioner, Andrew Luck's father. I looked up his credentials. Besides being an executive VP over at the NCAA, he was also president of NFL Europe for a while.
Wow.
I did not know that. So
I had no clue.
That's a good choice as a commissioner. I mean, that's a football brain right there. He didn't have that last time he tried this. They're actually, with that $500 million, they're going to have average salaries of $75,000 each.
So that's going to be set. I mean, that's not going to be. If you get a big star,
they're going to be paid more.
They're going to pay. Okay.
Yeah, they're going to be competitive salaries, but the average is going to be $75,000 for every team member, with some of the bigger names being paid more. And also, they removed the kickoff.
Wow.
They also say there's going to be more safety features coming in down the road. I don't know what they are. They have not announced them.
Now, the XFL, correct me if I'm wrong, that was, you put a football, instead of the kickoff, you put a football down at the other end of the field and have two guys run and chase it. Is that?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that because they're stressing safety.
Oh, yeah, that's probably more dangerous than the actual kickoff. I still have my, from the first XFL, I still have my New York, New Jersey Hitman's hat.
Did they drop the New York after?
I don't know. It was New York / New Jersey Hitman.
Because I remember only hearing it referred to as New Jersey Hitman.
Yeah.
So, good luck to them. I mean, they may end up being a feeder league for the NFL now.
Yeah.
If they're taking it this seriously.
Exit 3.
Just this past week, authorities have seized over 108 fake Super Bowl rings coming in from Hong Kong.
This seems like every year this happens. And it's always from Hong Kong. They must have like these great artisans that do these fake knockoffs. And
well, the reason they've discovered these knockoffs was because it was shoddy craftsmanship.
Oh, really?
They didn't look good. So they contact the NFL, which is the trademark holder of all the teams that were being counterfeit. They had the Eagles, they had the Patriots, they had a whole bunch of Super Bowl winners. They did them all. They found them 108.
Oh, so this wasn't just the Eagles who won the past Super Bowl. This is all the way through the NFL.
Right. They found them. They found them in Philly. And some of them were the Eagles Super Bowl rings, but there were a whole bunch of different ones. They had Patriots ones. Every team that had a Super Bowl winner in the last. Where were they selling
these things? Were these online sales?
They didn't make it anywhere. They got them at the incoming port.
Okay, they didn't even get into the market.
No, they'd never had a shot to get there.
Well, that's good. Hey, I guess they were tipped off.
I don't know if they were tipped off or something happened. It was just they noted poor craftsmanship. They looked at them. They searched everything. Then he contacted the NFL. The NFL confirmed they were fakes. They confiscated them. So at least some of that stuff, at least some people, didn't have to pay X amount of money for getting crappy rings.
Well, that's good. Good work by the cops.
Exit 4.
Now, this being 4th of July, we had the annual Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest over at Coney Island.
Disgusting sporting event ever. Boy, people just shoving food in their face.
In hot weather.
Oh, yeah.
But this one had a little controversy. And first of all, congratulations to Joey Chestnut and also to Mikey Sudo, the women's winner. They both won again.
Okay.
She won for the 5th time. She did 37 dogs and buns.
Okay.
And Joey Jaws did 74 dogs and buns in 10 minutes.
74 in 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes. But he almost didn't get that. His original initial count when he was done was only 64.
So they miscounted.
They miscounted because
judges count or what? I don't know how. This is done.
According to Chestnut, they didn't count the other plate he was eating from because it looked like him and the second place guy had 2 plates of hot dogs in front of them. They were eating from both, and the judges didn't see the second plates.
Well, is there a judge per? Because I've
seen the
highlights of this thing, and there's a whole line of eaters doing it, and I don't know how these judges keep track or how many judges there are. I don't know how this is done, but everyone's shoving food in their face, and how can you keep track?
Well, it's one of those things. They not only got Chestnut's number wrong, the second place guy, Carmen, what was his name? Carmen Cincotti. He was originally counted as having 45 hot dogs. So between
how much did he actually eat?
They retallied him.
Okay.
They actually switched over. They stopped they stopped the contest and they went right to the cornhole stuff. They actually were showing cornhole while the recount was going on.
All right.
So no one saw the recount. Cincotti started with an original thing of 45 they counted.
Okay.
After the recount, 64.
That's almost 20 hot dogs. How do you miss 20 hot dogs?
And also, when Chestnut went from 64 to 74...
Oh, that's another 10 hot dogs. Man,
exactly.
Unbelievable that they are missing this many.
What?
I mean, I don't know how this is done. I don't know how this sport is officiated. I don't know, if there's a judge per person or per contestant that keeps a count. But first off, I don't see how they can keep count for everyone there anyway.
Well, they have multiple judges, and it was it actually ended up being closer than it was because the original count had almost a 20, 25 dog difference. The final recount, revote, whatever you want to call it, 10 dog difference. Mm-hmm. And it was important because the betting.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know in Atlantic City you couldn't bet on this.
You can't bet on it in Nevada either because no one. You have to go to the gaming commission to get permission to do this stuff. You got to run it by them. They got to get permission.
So
to do
when
all that
we
stuff.
talk about betting, we're talking about
offshore.
Offshore. We're talking about
online.
Europe.
We're talking the islands, all that stuff,
all right.
And supposedly the offshore and online sports books do a hot dog handle of almost $1 million.
Wow, boy!
On the eating contest, and because of this recount,
now is this the typical over/under, and they put odds on everyone?
The over/under was 70.5 dogs and buns.
Ooh, okay.
So the recount really affected
really
the betting.
Important.
That affected the betting, and the 70.5. He actually before didn't make the over/under, but after the recount, he made the over/under. So that caused a lot of money to change hands. He went into this. The betting line for him. Going into it, he had a minus 700 betting line.
Wow. Well, let's see. I guess he was the runaway favorite. How about the women's?
No word on her.
Okay.
I can check it. Let me see.
All right. Don't worry about it.
I think she was minus 450.
Okay. Well,
she was pretty good. Well, she had won 4 in a row. So
all right. Yeah.
She had no one close to her either. So congratulations to the eaters there, and they're going to be going to digital counting, obviously, for the data metrics on the hot dog eating contest.
I don't know. Unless they put a certain amount of hot dogs in front of them and then count what's left over to kind of get a thing, because it just seems really scattershot. How
maybe they'll put microchips down their throat so they can count what all the dogs going by. So that's it for the ride on the Turnpike this week. If you want to reach out to the show, give us a call or text us at 609-512-6510. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, at Turnpike Sports. Email us at info@turnpikesportsradio.com. Don't forget to order your International Bikini Team calendars. info@internationalbikini-team.org to get the ordering information. And you got a great interview coming
I do.
Later.
With all this betting talk, we're going to talk to a guy who wrote a very interesting book and a kind of an unusual way to pick your teams or pick your players. The guy is Simon Chokoisky, and he wrote Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. It's very interesting. It's he does charts for all the games, and it's a interesting way to pick your teams.
It's a different way.
It's a different way.
And I think his book just became a lot more relevant now with the Supreme Court decision.
Hey, everyone's looking for an edge. So stick around for my interview with Simon Chokoisky right after this. Now, you've been hearing me talk about MyPillow and their different promotions, like the 4-pack special and the MyPillow mattress. Well, the folks at MyPillow now have a new special offer for all of you. It's called the MyPillow 2-pack special. Head over to MyPillow.com and click on the 2-pack special link right on the homepage. You can't miss it. And here's the offer. Use our promo code CARDS, CARDS, and you'll be able to get 2 MyPillow premium pillows for one low price plus free shipping. You can choose from standard, queen, and even king-size pillows. Same 10-year warranty, same 60-day money-back guarantee, and they're all made here in the USA. That's the MyPillow 2-pack premium pillow special. 2 pillows, one low price when you use our promo code CARDS at checkout. You'll also get free shipping on your order. That's MyPillow.com or call 800-319-7913 to order by phone and use our promo code CARDS. CARDS. Better sleep starts with MyPillow.
Free stuff is awesome, but free stuff that will spice up your bedroom is even better. Just go to adam.com and select almost any one item for 50% off, and then we'll load on the free stuff. Just enter this very exclusive code, BABE16 at checkout, and you'll get 10 tantalizing free gifts, including a sexy item for him, a special toy for her, and a third item you'll both enjoy. And for your viewing pleasure, 6 free spicy movies on DVD, plus free shipping! Always sent in discreet packaging. So go to adamandeve.com now. Get 50% off plus 10 free gifts when you enter the exclusive offer code BABE16. Again, that's BABE16. Because without it, no free stuff. That's BABE16 at adamandeve.com.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. You know, here at the show, we get a lot of interesting books written by a lot of interesting people. For me, this is one of the more fascinating books I've read. The writer is Simon Chokoisky, and the book is Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. And we are lucky enough to have Simon on the phone with us right now. Simon, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, great. Our pleasure. Just for some background for people out there who are not familiar with it, what is Vedic Astrology?
Well, it's just what it sounds like. It's a type of astrology that's mainly practiced in India, and typically it was just for the kings and queens in the old days to help them figure out when is the best time to go into battle, when is the best time to get married. And, one unique thing we as gamblers understand is that timing is very important. You know, you have good days, you have bad days, you have good weeks, good years, and bad years sometimes. And in the old days, people used to wonder, why does that happen? You know, why is it that sometimes someone who is much less skilled than I am can beat me, and on some days, you know, I can take on the world, whether it's at cards or whatever your pursuit. And so they figured out that there was some correlation between what's happening up in the heavens and whether you were having a good day or not. And so that's Vedic astrology. It's the astrology of ancient India that was used to time major events.
You touch on something that I want to ask you. You know, these techniques, you say, have been used for thousands of years and in every country of the world. Are you surprised that more people haven't used these techniques with regard to sports and betting?
Yes and no. so in the old days, so any science like this or art or superstition, whatever you want to call it, it wouldn't survive until this day if it didn't have some usefulness, some effectiveness. So as I said, in the old days, both in the West and the East, every king, every important person, I should say, had a consultant. Just as today we have financial consultants, we have consultants, real estate agents. Well, there were astrologers. And so they would ask their astrologers, hey, when should I do this? Or is this a good person to be in business with? And if they were wrong, typically what happened was, especially if you're a king, you didn't fire them. You actually banished them. They were done. Their career was over. Or at worst case scenario, they got their head cut off. So if the stuff didn't work, astrology would have disappeared a long time ago. Now, the problem is that it's a complex science, and there are a lot of charlatans out there, and a lot of knuckleheads like me who, get it wrong and miss stuff, and but we still try our best. Mm-hmm. So I think I understand why it's not used today, because it's very difficult. And another thing is, in the old days, the best minds, like the best mathematicians, the most brilliant scientists, they were doing astrology, the Albert Einsteins of the world. Whereas today, there are many more things that brilliant minds can do. They can go into science. They can go into, building rockets and so on. So we've got more average minds doing astrology, and as a result, it's maybe gone down. Mm-hmm. And so that doesn't surprise me.
When you're talking about sports, what are some of the aspects of a game or a team that you look at when using astrology in sports betting?
A sport is a contest. It's a battle. It's a win or a loss. It's black and white. Well, sometimes there's a tie. And more fundamentally, a contest is a space-time event. That means it begins at a particular place at a particular time. And then it has a lifespan. It lasts an hour or two, or if it's baseball, it can last forever, theoretically. But and then typically it has an ending, just like a human being. So if astrology can be applied to a human being, we're also space-time events. We're born in a certain place in a certain time. We have a lifespan, and then, we expire. So it's the same thing. A sporting contest is just like a human being. And if it works for human beings to be able to tell you, hey, you're going to be successful, you're going to do well, or you're not, then it should work for telling us whether the home team or the favorite team should win. So just like a battle, except these days the battles happen on the gridiron more often than on the battlefield.
What's intriguing about the book is how you bring the reader along during the process of creating a chart for a particular team or game. And at the start of this process is something called Dharma or Dharma types. What is that, and why is that so important when creating your charts?
Well, and I hate to get philosophical here, but Dharma is your right path. It's your purpose in life. It's your calling. And if it's not your calling to be a speculator, to be a gambler, to be in this field, then my contention is no matter how good you get at techniques, no matter how much you study, it's not really the right thing for you. And you should know that before you get into it. My mentor taught me that the astrologer's job is to put themselves out of business. That means that you take a client and you teach them, you help them find their purpose in life. You help them find their calling. And when you do that, then they don't need you anymore. Your job is done, right? And I've said this before, where I think that's also a doctor's job, traditionally, to take a client, teach them good health, how to eat, how to take care of their body, so that they don't need the doctor anymore. That's a utopian kind of world. But when it comes to gambling, I'm sure you've seen people like this who are well-intentioned, they study, but they're just not, somehow it's not for them. Mm-hmm. And this goes for everything. For boxing, people try to be boxers, but they're just not. And so my job, first of all, is to find out, is speculation right for you? Is it in the stars for you, if you will? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So,
and we start from there. And some people from very early on, they know that's their path, and that's great. And then my job is to help them get better, to help them find the better times to go to the casino, the better times to enter that tournament. But we know that they're in alignment. Mm-hmm. And so that's what that chapter is about.
Another term you use when analyzing a game is something called victory houses. Now, how does the idea of victory houses relate to your analysis?
So in astrology, there's something called houses of the horoscope. There are 12 houses, and each team gets 6 houses that are good for victory, and another 6 that are not good. So it's very simple. When the planets are in the house, in the victory, what I call the victory houses, mm-hmm. That's my term, by the way, for one team, and they're not, and by extension, they're not for the other team, then it shows which team is stronger. Mm-hmm. It's pretty straightforward.
By the way, it's a great term because when I saw victory houses, okay, I need to know this if I'm going to win at sports betting using astrology. I see the word victory, and I'm attracted to it.
Well, I got to tell you, I appreciate you saying that, because when I took this on, my wife and everybody said, who are you writing this book for? There's only so many astrologers, and there's only so many people who bet, and you're writing it for these niches. And I said, you know what? There's something in my heart that's just driving me to do this, and so there it is. So I'm very heartened that you're taking this to heart yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things. It's ancient wisdom that's been around for so long, and it's been used around the world. And it's just, I'm surprised that more people aren't embracing this it's from our ancestors, really.
Well, I'll tell you, in the 60s, there was an astrologer in India. His name was Krishnamurti. Mm-hmm. And he got so good to where he had a line around his house like people were trying to buy an iPhone. Like people would camp out for 2 or 3 days, and the line would stretch around the neighborhood a couple of times. And part of the reason how he got so good was he would play cards. And he would test his techniques by playing cards, and he'd see which times, and he was a decent card player, but, he wasn't the best. Mm-hmm. And he would play during times that were good for him, and then he would have his son, so he'd calculate this beforehand, and he'd have his son call him as soon as time turned bad to give him an excuse to leave the table. I know that's a crummy thing to do, but, he was testing this. And so, like at 12:31, his son would call and he'd say, "Oh, sorry guys, I got to take my chips and take off." And he got so good that people wouldn't play with him anymore. So he had to start losing on purpose. Mm-hmm. And this is a true story, by the way. This is, you can verify this yourself. His name was Krishnamurti, and he developed a system to where he could time even down to the hour, which period is favorable for you, which period isn't. And I'm not as good as I study his system and I try to follow along, but there are brilliant people like that who have got this stuff down really to a science. So yeah, I'm surprised too, but also it's very difficult. Like I said, it was only the best minds in the old days who would do this stuff, and these days, not so much.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports. Ever since the U.S. Supreme Court handed down its decision lifting the national ban on sports betting, the gambling landscape of the country is changing on a daily basis. So how do you keep up with all the latest news and developments? How do you know what each state is doing? You go to the one site that has all the information you need to stay ahead of the game, and that site is usbets.com. That's usbets.com. Written by the leading experts in the gambling industry, all you'll need is one visit to usbets.com and you'll see why it's the #1 gambling magazine in the USA. With USBets.com, you'll get up-to-date information on not just the sports betting scene, but also the latest news and notes on the entire gaming industry all across the country. It's not just one state, it's all of them in one spot. Stay in the loop and stay on top of your game. Get the latest news on sports betting and gambling from the country's #1 gambling magazine. Get on over to USBets.com. That's USBETS.com.
We'll get right back to the show, but I want to take a minute to talk to you about Bean Genius. How would you like your coffee delivered right to your door every month, maybe 2 times a month? Well, now that can happen with Bean Genius. Bean Genius sells freshly roasted coffee from some of the best independent coffee roasters in the country at BeanGenius.com. And Bean Genius actually learns their customers' individual taste preferences, then suggests future coffee blends for them. Well, how do they do that? Well, this is the cool thing about Bean Genius. Over at BeanGenius.com, they use an algorithm which learns the coffee flavors you like and then pairs up what you like with the coffee that they have in stock. And it's all based upon you. Every time you order, the system learns. The system learns your preferences as you go along and order more and more coffee. And now, all our listeners at Turnpike Sports can get a special offer. You head on over to BeanGenius.com/subscription, and you'll be able to get 10% off your purchase when you use our promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E, at checkout. That's 10% off at BeanGenius.com/subscription with promo code PIKE, P-I-K-E. BeanGenius.com, the smart specialty coffee subscription service.
Do you wake up with a sore neck or a bad back? Or maybe you just had an awful night's sleep? Must be the bed, right? Well, maybe it's not your bed. Maybe it's your pillow. That's why I use MyPillow. I sleep great at night and wake up pain-free. And now there's a great deal being offered by the folks at MyPillow. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the 4-pack special tab, and use promo code CARDS or call 1-800-319-7913 to take advantage of this 4-pack special. You'll get 50% off 2 MyPillow premium pillows and 2 Go Anywhere pillows. MyPillow.com with promo code CARDS. That's promo code CARDS to take advantage of this 4-pack special. Better sleep starts with MyPillow. Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. For those of you just joining us, we are talking with Simon Chokoisky, who has written a very interesting book called Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. Okay, now we understand the terms Dharma types, and we get the concept of victory houses. As I said, it's a process. What is your next step when trying to determine the outcome of a game using Vedic astrology?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the book, there are a total of 9 techniques. And so the victory houses is one technique, and that's how I first sort of got into it. But the victory houses move very slowly. So basically any game that starts within an hour or so is going to have the same configuration. And so the victory house technique was working a lot, but it was also not working some of the time. And I thought, why isn't it working? And so there are more discrete techniques that depend on an exact start time. And when I gave predictions last week, I noted that if this game starts within a couple of minutes of when it's supposed to, then we expect this outcome. And the more I did this, the more I found that even seconds can make a difference. And So timing, again, back to this idea that timing is everything. And if you begin playing, or if a game begins at a certain time, a certain outcome is expected. But if it begins a minute later, that outcome could be 180. It can be totally different. It could be for the other team.
How much of a change?
So I figured out some techniques to figure that out.
How much of a change in time is? If it happens within an hour, it's pretty much the same, or can it be changed from minute to minute, or how is that determined?
Honestly, it's from minute to minute. And as I mentioned earlier, the most recent example of this was a Cleveland-New York game, baseball, last game of their series, where, in my opinion, if that game had started 1 minute earlier, so if you're the manager and you know that you're supposed to start within this time, that Cleveland would have won, not New York. And by the way, this isn't, I know this sounds crazy and radical, but we spent 8 years under the Reagan administration having his astrologer time absolutely every meeting, every, airplane takeoff and landing. according to this principle. And his assistant even had a stopwatch, and he cued Reagan when it was time to begin a press conference, when it was time to begin a meeting. And his whole presidency ran according to this principle. So a very conservative man, but yet someone who understood, or at least went along with, this principle that to everything, if you want to succeed at something, starting at the right time really gives you a leg up.
It's amazing.
So sometimes it's even minutes and seconds.
It's amazing how precise that is when you're talking about time, how 1 minute can change an outcome of something so important.
Well, and it's hard to believe because you'll never know, right?
Yeah.
You'll never know if what the other outcome would have been, except that I've tracked games that have begun at very similar times, maybe a minute apart, and the chart is just different by a minute, and the outcome is the opposite. So I actually have, I have thousands of charts that I've looked at, and I have that data. And this speaks to the question of when most scientists think about astrology and they debunk it, they go, well, look at twins. Sometimes twins lead radically different lives, but they were born just minutes apart. And it's true. They're right. And so sometimes minutes can make a difference, and sometimes twins lead very similar lives. Mm-hmm. And in that case, it didn't make a difference. Mm-hmm.
I guess connected with time is also the location of a sporting event. How much emphasis do you put on the home team versus the visitor when you're creating your chart?
Right. Well, it's 10:45 where I am, and it's before noon. But if you were in Tokyo, it would be night, right? So location is very much linked with time, and as Einstein taught us, space and time are really the same thing, and that's why we call it space-time. So location and time are the two components that are the most important. So yes, absolutely, you need an accurate location for a correct horoscope and an accurate start time.
When you talk about location, and we talked at another time, you mentioned individual players will perform differently depending on when and where they play. And this led us to be thinking, would it be beneficial for an athlete or a team to consult an astrologer before he signs with a particular team? Do you know of any athletes who actually consulted with astrologers before joining a team?
That is a great question. No, I personally don't. I work with, I don't work with the kings and queens in the world typically, although I've seen a couple of Hollywood celebrities and whatnot, but typically I work with mom and pop clients. But in my opinion, the $100 or whatever you spend to consult with an astrologer before making a multi-million-dollar move or trade is worth it. It's well worth it. Because yes, different locations will affect you. So I think even in playing cards, if you go to a tournament in Vegas and, you do well, you may go to a tournament in Jersey or somewhere else and just stink up the room. And part of that could be related to, it may not be, but it's possible that it's related to the fact that in Jersey, you just have bad lines. You've got bad stuff going on there, bad juju for you, so that you don't do as well. And we can identify that.
Oh, great. Easy, I'm in Jersey. I feel terrible now.
No. Individual. So
I know.
You get, by the way, anyone can do this for themselves. There's a site you can go to. I don't know if it's okay to refer. It's not my site. This is a general site, so it's not a plug. It's a site called astro.com. You go to free horoscopes, and then you click on Astro Click Travel, because typically we use this to figure out where people can travel and have a good time and where areas they should avoid. Click on that, enter your data, and then you'll see all of your lines across the globe. And then anywhere you click, it'll interpret it for you, and it'll tell you, hey, this place is great for business, this place is great for relationships. Uh-huh. Like, just a really quick example, I have a client, or I had a client, and her Venus line went through Portland, Maine. And I said, look, Portland, Maine is great for love for you. And she started laughing. I said, why are you laughing? She said, my husband's from Portland, Maine.
Wow.
And she had never been there. But her husband, love, had come to her from Portland, Maine. And likewise, where you have a Jupiter line is where you're lucky. So when it comes to gambling, you want to look to where your Jupiter line is. Mm-hmm. And so when you find that, go to those places, try it out, see what happens. I've done it. For me, it's through Puerto Rico. And years ago, when I landed in Puerto Rico, I didn't speak Spanish, nothing. But and this is a true story. I was on the street corner, and I didn't have any car or anything. There was this guy on a motorcycle. I tapped him on the shoulder. It was a red light. I said, how much you want for that bike? He said, $800. I pulled it out, paid him. He got off the bike, gave me his helmet, and gave me the little thing, the registration. I got on the bike. By the time the light turned green, I was off.
Wow.
And stuff like that happened for me over there like crazy. Like I would knock on a door and people would say, come in, we've been waiting for you. We need, I was a physical trainer at the time. We need somebody to help us run the gym. Intercontinental Hotel, I became the manager. Like that.
Wow, boy.
So where your Jupiter line is where you tend to be lucky. And you can find that. It's very easy. It's not difficult. Any of your listeners can find it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing story. I never read a book like the one you've written, Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology, and that uses astrology and its technique for sports betting. I gotta ask you, has this book been well received in the astrology world? Have there been astrologers saying, hey, you shouldn't be using our techniques for gambling purposes, or has it been well received within the industry?
There's a small percentage of astrologers who are a little bit above it all and a little bit high and mighty, and actually I understand where they're coming from, because this is a spiritual science. It's meant to empower people, right? And they have this association that speculation is somehow disempowering. And like I said at the beginning, it can be. If it's not your calling, it can be. You can lose your house, in your mortgage. But it's also gotten some great reviews from some professional astrology magazines. So yes, generally speaking, it's been well received.
Well, we're running out of time, and I want to thank you, Simon, for coming on and discussing this very interesting book you've written. The name of the book is Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology by Simon Chokoisky. And check out his website at spirittype.com. Simon, thanks for coming on.
It's been my pleasure, guys. Take care.
And that'll do it for us. See you next time out on the Turnpike.